Did I really just say that? Claiming I have a dysfunction in a city where a man's only value is his ability to raise daughters. Desperate times call for desperate lies. But to understand how I ended up here, we have to go back to the night my life was sold away. Welcome to Yunxuan City. For 100 years, women have ruled supreme, while men serve their wives in total obedience. I was forced into a marriage with the young city lord, Xiao Mingzhao. But on our wedding night, the woman didn't even lift my veil before running off to war. If she thinks I'm going to wait around like a loyal dog for 3 long years, she's wrong. I want my freedom, and I'll do anything to get it. 3 years later, the demon general is returning. I've used makeup to look like a sickly ghost, hoping she'll find me too weak to be her consort. Perfect. If I look like I'm 1 foot in the grave, she'll have no choice but to grant me a divorce and find someone who actually has a pulse. To kill some time before the big encounter, I wandered through the market and saw people selling portraits of the young city lord. They claimed her face was so hideous it could ward off evil spirits. Looking at the drawings, I couldn't help but mock the woman who had abandoned me for 3 long years.
长这么丑，可不得绕着走。
But the crowd suddenly went silent, and a cold chill ran down my spine. I turned around, and there she was, the real Xiao Mingzhao, staring right at me, and she didn't look anything like the monster in the drawings. I expected a beast, but the woman standing before me was an ethereal beauty, radiant enough to make any man's heart skip a beat. I had to snap out of it immediately. I couldn't let her looks distract me from my mission. I immediately collapsed to the ground, putting on a desperate performance of being at death's door.
所以拼着一口气来城门迎接。
Once we were back at the manor, I moved to step 1 of my Operation Death Wish. I deliberately smashed a valuable vase right in front of her, hoping to provoke her temper. In Yunxuan City, a man breaking his wife's property is a serious offense. I was practically begging for her to throw me out in a fit of rage.
花开满地，祥瑞之兆。多谢驸马。
She wouldn't leave me alone for a second. That night, she leaned in close, whispering that I smelled like sweet pomegranates. Her hand started wandering, and she had the nerve to say she needed to give me a thorough physical exam. I could feel my face burning with a mix of fury and sheer panic.
妈，你的血好香啊，居然还有一股石榴味，果真与众不同。看来今晚我得好好给驸马检查一下身体。
The next day, she had the audacity to demand I scrub her back while she bathed. I went in there ready to make her regret it, but then the steam cleared. Her back was covered in scars, reminders of every battle she fought to protect this city while I sat safely at home. My anger just seemed to vanish into the air.
他这3年过得也挺辛苦。
For a split second, I felt a pang of genuine pity. Maybe she isn't the heartless general everyone says she is, but that doesn't mean I can stay. But my pity didn't last long when she went back to her teasing ways. She fed me a plum, her eyes full of a fire that had nothing to do with war. She invited me to her chamber, claiming she wanted to help me cool down my fire. I knew exactly what she was implying.
驸马怎么了？李子吃多了容易上火，驸马还是小心一点。今晚先来我寝殿，我帮驸马泄火。
No way. I wasn't about to walk straight into her trap. I needed a new escape plan, and I needed it before the sun went down. She was persistent, even trying to share ritual wine on a bed I had secretly soaked with water, just to keep her away. I was cornered, desperate to protect my virtue and my plan for freedom. I had to say something so shocking that she would never want to touch me again.
我不举。
To my surprise, she didn't cast me aside in anger. Instead, she stayed by my side, looking at me with a tenderness I couldn't comprehend. As I slept, she remembered a boy from her past, a boy who had comforted her when she lost her father and told her it was okay for a woman to show weakness.
女子男子都是人，人应该开心就笑，伤心就哭。
She had no idea that boy was me, and she was determined to make up for the years she spent away. Her heart was in the right place, but it only made my situation more complicated. Sharing a bed with her was a constant nightmare. She complained about my jade pendant poking her, and my heart nearly stopped. If she realized I was hiding my true male identity under these heavy robes, everything would be over in an instant.
原来驸马浑身上下最硬的不是嘴啊！
I was terrified. One wrong move, and my secret would be out, leaving me completely at her mercy. I have to find a way out of this manor before she discovers the truth. The next day at court, the chancellor tried to humiliate me in front of everyone, pointing out that my virginity mark was still intact after 3 years of marriage. The ministers were practically screaming for my head. I didn't care about their judgment. I only saw a golden opportunity to finally end this marriage.
臣对少城主没有不敬，只是臣自幼体弱多病，恐怕是没办法伺候好少城主了。
The city lord's fury was terrifying, and the air in the room turned cold. I've thrown the dice and played my last card. Will this finally lead to my freedom, Or have I just started a war that I have no hope of winning?
你好大的胆子！入府3年，居然还有手工杀，还敢说你没有对少城主不敬？既然如此，绝不能委屈了昭儿。我听说袁丞相之子。
The city lord's eyes were like shards of ice, ready to shatter my fragile existence. She was convinced I was a useless husband, a stain on the family honor because I hadn't yet served her daughter. I was bracing for a lashing or a death sentence, which honestly felt like a shortcut to freedom. Just as the old woman was about to replace me with some chancellor's son, Xiao Mingzhao stepped in. She spun a lie about some Taoist master and a 49-day abstinence period to ward off fatal accidents. It was a ridiculous excuse, but it bought me time.
先驸马7日之内调理好身子，待昭儿守戒期过，立刻圆房。
7 days to recover, then I must consummate the marriage. I need an escape plan, fast. The threat of the bedroom wasn't enough. Now they've sent in the heavy artillery. 3 noble consorts from the city lord's own collection showed up at my door, claiming they were here to teach me. One with a pipa, one with iron fists, and one who looked like he spent more on eyeliner than I do on tea.
现在让几位贵妇走，恐怕母亲会更为难宣郎。看来宣郎要吃些苦头了。乐主，你派人盯着点驸马那边，千万别让他吃亏了。
They want to turn me into a professional pleaser? Fine. If they want to see a hopeless case, I'll give them a performance that'll make them quit their jobs. I'll be the worst student this manor has ever seen. While I was preparing to fail my classes, Xiao Mingzhao was actually showing a bit of a protective streak. She knew her mother was trying to force my hand, and even though she looked annoyed, she ordered her guards to make sure I wasn't actually mistreated. She's a strange one, teasing me 1 minute and shielding me the next.
乐主，你派人盯着点驸马那边，千万别让他吃亏了。
The training started with nourishing the heart. Noble Consort Wen tried to show me how a zither could seduce a woman's soul. I watched the city lord practically drooling over his hands and realized that if I actually learned this, Xiao Mingzhao would never let me leave the bed. I decided right then. My fingers are officially made of lead.
琴音最能传情，记住，男人不能光伺候好女人的身，更要滋润她的心。
Then came Noble Consort Mei with his Gouhuan Shu, the art of acting sweet to make a woman lose her mind. The scale of his flirting was so intense, it made my skin crawl. He had the city lord wrapped around his finger with just a few pouts. If this is what it takes to survive in this manner, I'd rather be a hermit. I refuse to practice this nonsense.
这也太卷了，真这么学下去就更合理不了了。大死我也不能。
The day of the performance arrived. I sat at the zither and played like a man possessed by a deaf demon, that is. I hit every wrong note, broke the rhythm, and made a sound that could scare off a charging army. I waited for Xiao Mingzhao to cover her ears and kick me out.
我仿佛看到了千军万马。
Is she deaf? She actually liked it. She called my chaotic noise magnificent. This woman's taste is as terrifying as her sword skills. My plan to be a hopeless case just backfired into becoming her favorite musician. Desperate times called for a desperate dance. I tried to use seduction to lead her into a trap, but she looked like she was actually falling for it. I had to kill the mood before things got physical. I deliberately tripped over my own feet and faked a sprained ankle, hoping she'd lose interest and let me go.
对不起，少城主，我连支舞都跳不好，还扭伤了脚，趁这就退下。
But instead of letting me leave, she leaned in, her eyes glowing with a fire that made my heart race for all the wrong reasons. She told me I was stunning and that my efforts wouldn't go to waste tonight. I realized I hadn't ruined the mood. I'd accidentally said it. I had to get out of that room before I became the main course.
完了完了，我都故意出手了，他怎么反而越来越兴奋了？这个房间绝不能再待下去了，得赶紧跑！
The noble consorts forced a strange tonic down my throat, making my body burn instantly.
驸马的身子是弱了些，幸好我们提前准备了这个补药，你喝了保证神清气爽，精力充沛。
The tonic was an aphrodisiac. Mingzhao returned, finding me on fire and offering her help.
驸马，你怎么回来了？不是说力不从心吗？
I woke up the next morning in a panic, checking my mark of chastity immediately. Thank the heavens, it was still there. But the way Xiao Mingzhao was teasing me about last night made me realize I was playing a dangerous game. If I don't speed up this divorce, I'm going to lose more than just my freedom.
看起来得加快合理，不然早晚有一天会把持不住，失身又失心啊！
I can't stay in this manner and wait for her to break my defenses. I need to audit my assets and prepare for a clean break. Mo Sheng came in to change the sheets, chirping about whether we finally did it. I told him Xiao Mingzhao is just a heartbreaker playing with her food. It's time to see how much money I have left to buy my way out of this city.
错，叫浪姐。哦，对了，你赶紧去把东西收拾一下，我一会儿还要去铺子盘算下现在还有多少银。
My plans for a quiet exit were interrupted by Su Jinshu. He was a mess, crying about how General Chu Xiao Mingzhao's top aide was trying to force him into being her 18th husband. The woman had already wrecked his shop and threatened his life. In this city, power is the only currency that matters, and the military has it all.
我听说那个楚将军是个变态啊，石岐坊小狼不是死了就是残了他。
I spread a prophecy about a lustful demon, making the city suspect General Chu.
黑影子，穿血衣，专偷小哥，好色情，偷够18个，骨头变成泥。
I stepped into the spotlight as a TNG Pavilion successor, gambling my life to win over the public.
诸位，本人天机阁陆小峰。
With a blade at my throat, I wonder, will this save me or get me executed?
道长救命啊！千年淫魔是不是就是楚将军啊？
To save my neck, I played the holy messenger, shouting for the heavens to witness the general's crimes. The crowd begged for a miracle. I warned them the general's kidnappings would bring grave danger to the city. While the crowd was panicking, Chu Xiaoxiao didn't just want to kill me. She wanted to add me to her collection. She stood there boasting about her 17 husbands like they were trophies, completely oblivious to the disaster I was brewing for her. I wanted to throw her into a frying pan just to see if the oil or her soul was cheaper.
能嫁给我是他们祖上积德了。道长要是说我有错，那也只不过是犯了全天下女人都会犯的错罢了。
She called her kidnappings a blessing and a mistake any woman would make. The arrogance was sickening. I kept pushing, reminding her that she had ransacked shops and used force to fill her harem. I told her that karma was a debt that always gets collected, and her time was up. The crowd was chanting for justice, and the general finally snapped. She drew her sword, ready to silence me for good. I closed my eyes, waiting for the blow, but then a voice cut through the chaos like a thunderclap. My wife had finally arrived to claim the stage.
少城主，
Xiao Mingzhao stepped between me and the blade, looking every bit the protector I never thought she could be. The general's face went pale the moment she saw the young city lord. The tide had turned, and the hunter was now the prey. With Xiao Mingzhao standing guard, it was time for the final blow. Su Jinshu stepped forward, trembling but determined, holding a petition written in the blood of every man Chu Xiaojiao had broken. It was the one thing her military rank couldn't protect her from.
这里是楚将军府所有被迫害之人联名写的血书，恳请少城主为他们做主。
Even cornered, the general tried to use her military service as a shield. She screamed about her merits, but Xiao Mingzhao wasn't buying it. She made it clear that a sword meant for protection should never be used to bully the weak. The law was finally coming for the general.
你不能废除住我！我要见城主！我要见城主！
As they dragged her away, the cheers of the crowd were deafening. But the victory felt hollow when Xiao Mingzhao turned her gaze toward me. She didn't look angry. She looked curious. She invited me to her manor for a reading, and I knew my own trouble was just beginning. Walking into her manor as a Taoist was a mistake. She leaned in close, her breath warm against my ear, asking about our marriage like she already knew who was behind the fake beard. She wanted to know exactly when we would finally share a wedding night.
不知道长能否算出我与驸马何时才能共度良宵？
My fake beard peeled off, exposing the man beneath the mask. The game was up.
强扭的瓜不甜，但止渴。如果实在不行，我就给他扭断。道长，你怎么吓得连胡子都掉了？不会是故意装成道士模样来亲亲我吧？
She noticed the wound on my arm before I could even hide it. The Taoist priest was gone, and I was just her husband again. She looked at me with a mix of concern and triumph that made my heart race for all the wrong reasons. I expected a lecture, but instead, she started explaining herself. All those rumors about her being a bloodthirsty killer and a regular at the brothels were just misunderstandings she was too proud to correct. She admitted she'd never even been close to a man.
当时我追个逃犯，结果呢，在路上他被马车撞死了。打更的人看到，就说我当街虐杀百姓。
I still teased her about a divorce, but her soft gaze was more dangerous than any sword.
当然是因为想和离啊。
She promised to be more gentle from now on and reminded me that we have all the time in the world. She's playing the long game, and for the first time in 3 years, I'm starting to think I might actually lose this fight for freedom. After 3 years of wanting to leave, my resolve is crumbling. I'm falling for her.
嫁进少城主并非我所愿，和离也是我坚持了3年的信念。但明昭，我对他是不是已经动心了？
Mo Sheng came in panicking, thinking I was being punished, but I found myself defending her. She wasn't the monster the city feared. She was righteous, and in her own way, incredibly tolerant. I even started sewing her a gift to repay her kindness.
话本里都说了，救命之恩要以身相报。驸马，你们昨晚是不是已经……哎，那驸马，你是不是不合理了？
I finally went to her and gave her the silk armor I'd spent days sewing. It was my way of saying I was done running. She looked at the gift, then at me, and made a promise that took my breath away. She was ready to meet me halfway.
你走出了第一步，接下来的99步都由我来走。我一定会非常努力的，让你知道我有多喜欢你。从今往后，就由我来呵护你，照顾你。
Just when I thought I could finally breathe, the past came knocking. Mo Sheng burst in, looking like he'd seen a ghost. My father and brother, the men who sold me to this manor, like a piece of livestock, had arrived at the gate.
是驸马您的嫡父和嫡兄来了。
你一个庶子，除了一副皮囊，没有任何可取之处。当初也不知道使了什么手段勾引了少城主，真以为自己野鸡变凤凰了。
My father and brother only care about my welfare now that Mingzhao is back. I refuse to be the obedient son. My father demanded I kneel, forgetting whose roof he's under.
要跪也是你们跪，我是驸马。
I stood my ground, staring him down. I'm not just a Lu anymore. I'm the man of the city lord's manor, and I'm done taking orders from the people who sold me off. Mingzhao burst in, stopping my father's strike.
是我听说，云轩嫁入府里3年，这手工纱居然还在，这实在太不像话，所以我才特意带了嫡子云城过来，好好教导教导他。
She stepped in front of me, her hand resting on her sword. My father's arrogance vanished faster than a shadow at noon. He realized too late that bullying me meant answering to her. Seeing his plan fail, my brother tried a different approach. He brought out a jar of plum blossom wine, acting like a shy maiden trying to show off his domestic skills. He was practically throwing himself at Mingzhao right in front of me, but he didn't realize she was already one step ahead.
梅花酒，轩郎喜欢，你一定得先尝尝。
Mingzhao handed the cup to me without even looking at him. I took a sip and felt the bitterness of his scheme. If he thought a little wine could buy his way into this manor, he was even more desperate than I thought. Then came the main event. My father produced a luminous pearl, boasting about its rarity as if it were a gift from the gods. He thought he could buy Mingzhao's favor with a shiny rock, but he didn't realize that the treasures in this manor make his little pearl look like a piece of gravel.
你们这可勉强给轩郎当个弹珠玩儿吧。
The victory over my father was short-lived. Manager Ying, the wet nurse who raised Mingzhao, arrived with a tongue sharper than a butcher's knife. She didn't care about my status or the fact that I just defended the manor. She only cared about why there wasn't a baby in the cradle yet.
我的乖乖，你怎么瘦了这么多？你是怎么当驸马的？连煮个好汤水给少城主补补身子都不会吗？
My brother sucked up to the wet nurse, acting like the perfect, virtuous man.
少城主都夸我了，我必须趁热打铁。营长室既然喜欢这梅花的清香，我这里有一个亲手绣制的香囊，里面装了梅花，还望您笑纳。
The wet nurse was practically drooling over him. My brother was officially sucking up to the one person who could make my life miserable, and he was doing a damn good job of it. Manager Yin wasn't done with me. She brought over a secret health recipe soup and a book that made my ears turn red just looking at the cover. She was determined to turn our marriage into something much more physical, and Mingzhao was more than happy to play along.
驸马，好好学，今晚我来验收。
The atmosphere in the room shifted as soon as we were alone. The soup was doing its job, or maybe it was just the way she was looking at me. She actually suggested we look at that scandalous book together, and for the first time, I didn't want to say no.
轩郎，乳母给你的画册难写，我们是不是？
Before things could get too heated, the wet nurse pulled a classic move to separate us. She claimed there was a mouse in her room and practically forced us out of our own chambers. I knew she was up to something, but I didn't realize how deep the plot went.
要不让乳母来我寝殿睡吧，我带驸马去偏院。
We were being kicked out of our own bedroom. I watched Manager Yin move in with a triumphant look, and I knew this wasn't just about a mouse. She was clearing the way for someone else. While I was stuck in the side courtyard, my brother decided to make his final move. He snuck into the main bedroom with wine, expecting to find a vulnerable Mingzhao waiting for him. He thought he was being so clever, but he didn't realize the wet nurse had already claimed that bed.
这是戒指送酒，上来跟我私会呀！我就喜欢这种懂事的小郎君。
父亲的话果然没错，少城主对我还是有心的。这一壶加了料的梅花酒下去，我定能入了这少城主府。
My brother's spiked wine trap backfired, while I walked into a dream.
这不止，跟3年前大婚时间一模一样。
Mingzhao recreated our wedding night, finally keeping her promise to me. I wasn't a random choice. She remembered me as the boy who helped her years ago.
其实我的心里一直有个人，他在我最难过无助的时候出现在我眼前。
I spent 3 years nursing my resentment, convinced I had married a heartless monster. But looking into her eyes, I realized I hadn't just found a wife. I had found a hero who had spent every moment on the battlefield, fighting just to get back to me. My goal was a divorce, but now, I never want to let her go.
无数关于你的谣言，都让我觉得自己嫁了个只懂打打杀杀的恶人。所以这3年来，我一心只想着和离。但是和你相处的过程中，我发现你和谣言并不同。没想到，是我捡到了宝，嫁给了个顶天立地的大英雄。
The romantic tension was thick enough to cut with a sword, until Mingzhao started teasing me about the tonic the wet nurse prepared. She claimed it was powerful enough for 7 rounds, and honestly, with the way she was looking at me, I started to believe her.
乳母的汤果然厉害，不过她说是1夜7次，我怎么觉得不止呢？
Scandal broke as my brother was found in the wet nurse's bed. His plan turned into a nightmare.
你们放心，陆郎昨晚伺候的甚好，我不会亏待他的。
My brother snuck into that room, and now must face the consequences of his greed.
兄长若是对殷长师有心，你直接跟我说就是了，怎么能做出自荐枕席这种事？
Mingzhao betrothed my brother to the wet nurse, a perfect stroke of poetic justice.
将陆云城许配给殷长师做正夫，择日成婚吧。
Life settled into a strange rhythm, even if I did manage to blow up the kitchen trying to be a virtuous husband. When the servants tried to gossip about my lack of domestic skills, Mingzhao shut them down with a ferocity that made my heart skip. She didn't marry me for my cooking, she married me for me.
男子的价值从不在灶台和针线之间。他若擅长这些，我自然欢喜；但他若不擅长也无妨。我娶她回来，只是因为她是陆云轩，她的好我懂就够了。
I realized then that my value wasn't in the kitchen, but in the books. Mingzhao was drowning in military expenses, and my knack for numbers was exactly what she needed. For the first time, I wasn't just a consort. I was her partner, her strategist, and her equal.
你看啊，这堆是军械耗费，得按分类在下面标明年份和损耗率。
Mingzhao defended Jinshu, challenging the cruel traditions that dismiss man's dignity.
但是如果没有男子在背后的付出，女子又何谈保家护城、建功立业？
Jinshu mocked the belt I made, but his games are just beginning. He wants my position.
云轩，我刚看到少城主的腰带上绣了2只鸡，少城主是喜欢鸡吗？
他们说，苏公子比您更适合做驸马。
Jinshu is staging a coup, playing the model husband to win over the servants while I work. I could see the gears turning. If I didn't step up my game, I'd be replaced by a man who thinks sunlight has a smell. It was time for me to get serious about defending my territory. I couldn't let those whispers turn into reality. That night, I decided to remind Mingzhao exactly why I was the one wearing her belt, even if the ducks did look like chickens. I was proactive. And for the first time, I didn't wait for her to lead.
群狼环伺，不卖力点就要被偷家了。
But Jinshu didn't know when to quit. He brought over embroidery patterns just to highlight my lack of manly virtues right in front of Mingzhao. He wanted her to see me as a failure, but my wife doesn't value a man by how well he handles a needle.
少城主千万别怪云轩，他未出嫁的时候就喜欢往外跑，对刺绣、烹饪向来不感兴趣，不像我，自幼喜欢研习这些。如果我嫁进府里，
Mingzhao saw through his act faster than I did. To protect our peace and get him out of our hair, she decided to play matchmaker and ship him off to Captain Shen. It was a perfect move to neutralize a threat.
我觉着倒是与苏公子像是一路人。轩郎，我们替他们做个媒如何？
The look on Jinshu's face was priceless. He wanted a throne, and she offered him a barracks. His desperate, immediate refusal told me everything I needed to know about his true intentions. Cornered and desperate, Jinshu finally dropped the mask. He didn't just want a marriage, he wanted my marriage. He stood there and announced his plan to join our household like it was a done deal.
金叔，我知道你之前的未婚妻是官宦家的嫡女，但她自己没有半点官职。沈校尉是堂堂4品官衔，前途无量，并且你嫁过去之后直接就是正夫。
The sheer audacity left us both speechless. He actually thought he could just announce his way into Mingzhao's life, claiming he wasn't there to tear us apart while doing exactly that. He mistook Mingzhao's politeness for affection, a classic mistake for a man blinded by his own ambition. But my wife doesn't do subtle when it comes to her feelings for me.
你看到我笑，那是因为我在看轩郎。除了他，我眼里根本看不到其他人。
The humiliation turned his obsession into pure poison. He started lashing out, but Mingzhao wasn't finished protecting what's ours. She stepped forward with a cold authority that made the room freeze.
苏锦书，我绝不允许你再伤害轩郎半分。我给你3天时间离开少城主府，如若不然，我只能请人把你送回苏宅。请吧。
Even as he was packing, I tried to offer him a way out with some dignity and enough silver to start over. But Jinshu would rather burn the house down than leave it with a thank you. He mocked the very idea of loyalty.
唯一，自古女子多滥情，他楚潇潇那样的人都能娶18房，更何况少城主，就算不是我，也会是别人。
Jinshu left with a promise of war, realizing my love for Mingzhao is my weakness.
陆云轩，既然你说少城主那么爱你，那就别怪我见你的光了。
Jinshu tried to sneak back in while Mingzhao was drunk, hoping to override our history.
少城主，你若是尝过我的滋味，就不会只痴迷于陆云轩一人了。
Mingzhao kicked him out again, but the damage was done. By morning, the city was buzzing with a scandal that made my stomach turn. Mo Sheng came running with the news that everyone thought she'd taken him in.
外面都在传苏公子被少城主给收了。
The rumors were a calculated strike against my reputation and our marriage. Jinshu might be hiding at his cloth shop, but he's already woven a web of lies that could choke us both. I have to find him before this lie becomes the city's truth. What is he planning next?
不是小浪，是驸马。
Jinshu is trying to steal my life and title, claiming he's more qualified to be consort. He actually thought his embroidery skills and cooking were enough to replace me. But he forgot one thing. I'm not just a title holder. I'm the one Mingzhao actually wants. While he was busy listing his virtues, I noticed a strange, sweet scent filling the room. Before I could even call for help, I realized it was knockout smoke. Su Jinshu's eyes started to flutter, and I knew if I stayed awake, these kidnappers would get suspicious. I had to play along to see who was behind this, so I decided to give them the performance of a lifetime and faked a faint right there on the floor. Tied in a cellar, I let Jinshu taste the privileges of my life by making him the thug's target.
他身上的月白袍子，那可是驸马才能用的料子。
Su Jinshu panicked, trying to explain that I was the one who gave him those clothes. But the thugs weren't interested in a fashion history lesson. I kept the pressure on, making him look like the high-value target while I stayed in the shadows. My plan to redirect them hit a wall when the lead thug laughed. They didn't care about money or ransom. Their real mission was far more sinister. They were sent to ruin my reputation and leave me with nothing. I felt a chill down my spine as I realized this wasn't just a kidnapping, it was a targeted assassination of my character. While I was fighting for my dignity in that cellar, back at the manor, Mingzhao had finally noticed our absence. My servant Mo Sheng was in a total panic, but I knew my wife wouldn't just sit around. She was already turning the city upside down to find me. The situation in the cellar turned dangerous. The thugs were getting impatient and started talking about doing something irreversible. Su Jinshu was sobbing, begging for mercy, but these men were heartless. I kept my eyes on the door, praying that Mingzhao would see the markers I managed to leave behind.
与狼身上死，走个野风流，干呐！
Just as the thugs were closing in, the door burst open. Mingzhao was there, looking like a goddess of war. I didn't waste a second. I threw myself into her arms, acting like a terrified, fragile husband. Su Jinshu tried to expose my little act, but Mingzhao didn't even look at him. She only had eyes for me.
不知道，我就看见他们两个打起来了，然后自己把自己打晕了，太吓人了。咱们快回去吧。
I told her the thugs just knocked each other out in a fight. It was a flimsy story, but she was too relieved to care. We left Su Jinshu behind in the dust of his own failed schemes, but I knew the real mastermind was still out there, and he was closer than I thought. Safe back at the manor, I watched Su Jinshu slink away in shame. He had realized that no matter how much he plotted, he couldn't get between me and Mingzhao. But his eyes were full of a new kind of hate. He wasn't just jealous anymore, he was vengeful, and a man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind. The truth finally came out, and it cut deeper than any blade. It wasn't just Su Jinshu. My own brother, Lu Yuncheng, was the one who hired those thugs. I had him dragged before me, and he didn't even have the grace to look ashamed. He actually had the nerve to blame me for his own miserable marriage.
是我又怎么样？我不这样做，难道看你在少城中府风光吗？
I didn't waste time with words. I raised my hand and delivered the justice he deserved. I slapped him once for the brotherhood he betrayed, and again for the reputation he tried to destroy. He fell to the floor, finally realizing that the weak brother he used to bully was gone forever.
这一巴掌，打你竟然敢买凶毁我清白。
I looked down at him and gave him a final warning. I made it clear that his life at the Yin Mansion only existed because I allowed it. If he ever dared to touch a hair on my head again, I would make sure he was stripped of everything and thrown onto the streets to rot. He finally understood that I was the one holding his leash. I've been appointed to manage the city lord's birthday banquet, a dangerous test of my worth.
奉天承运，城主诏曰：孤诞辰将至，特命驸马全权统筹寿宴诸事，户部拨银50万两，以供之用。钦此。
I thought the danger was over, but in the shadows of the palace, new enemies were forming. Noble Consort Wen was furious that I had taken over his traditional role. He and the Prime Minister were already whispering about how to sabotage the banquet and force me to fail. They're setting a trap that could cost me more than just a job. Will I be able to see it coming before the party turns into my funeral?
他可能不知道，我的酒楼遍布全城，置办这些并不难，只是这账册，我得好好琢磨琢磨。
Noble Consort Wen thought he could bury me under a mountain of fake receipts and impossible demands. I spent the whole night digging through the birthday banquet records, and what I found was a goldmine of corruption. He's been padding the budget with items that don't even exist. Camel humps and rare bird nests? Please. This isn't a shopping list. It's a blueprint for embezzlement. He's trying to scare me into quitting, but he's about to find out that I'm much better at math than he is.
他可能不知道，我的酒楼遍布全城，置办这些并不难。
He thinks these rare ingredients are impossible to find, but he forgot who he's dealing with. My business empire stretches across every corner of the city. If I want camel humps by dawn, I'll have them by midnight. I'm not just going to host this party. I'm going to use it to expose every penny he's stolen from the city treasury. Even with the weight of the city on my shoulders, Mingzhao always finds a way to distract me. She decided my back was the perfect canvas for her poetry. It's an intimate game of cat and mouse, and honestly, I'm starting to like being the mouse.
驸马，你猜我刚才写了什么字？
The morning of the banquet, motion came running in like the sky was falling. The rare ingredients were trashed. The expensive plates were shattered. It was a total massacre of my hard work. Most people would have packed their bags and fled the city.
寿宴上要用的名贵食材被破坏了一大半，还有那些器具也被破坏了，怎么办呀？
They wanted me to panic, to fail publicly, but they underestimated my ability to improvise. If I can't give the city lord a feast of kings, I'll give her something she's never seen, the heart of her own people. Just as the banquet was starting, the city lord dropped a bombshell that nearly knocked me sideways. She announced a new noble consort, and when the doors opened, I saw the one face I never wanted to see again. Su Jinshu had somehow crawled his way into the imperial family.
Su Jinshu.
Mingzhao didn't hold back. She called him out right in front of the entire court, exposing his desperate climb to power. Su Jinshu looked like he wanted to vanish, but he was stuck there, wearing his new title like a stolen coat.
爬不上我的床，爬到母亲床上。
The moment of truth arrived. Instead of the gold-plated luxury everyone expected, I presented simple, rustic dishes from the local farmers. The other consorts started laughing, calling it crude junk and commoner food. They thought I had finally lost my mind.
这是什么简陋之物？驸马也敢端到城主的寿宴上？
I let them laugh. The louder they mocked me, the more they showed how out of touch they were with the very people who built this city. I was betting everything on the city lord's wisdom. I explained that these flavors represented the true heart of Yunxuan City. It wasn't about the price of the ingredients. It was about the loyalty of the citizens. To my relief, the city lord didn't just accept it, she loved it. She saw the sincerity in the simplicity.
城主，少城主曾多次与臣讲过，上次去北京征伐的时候，有很多当地百姓围炉煮肉，好不惬意。都说烟火最能体现民心。今日是城主的寿宴，所以臣特意寻来天南海北的食材。臣是想让城主尝一尝各地百姓的口味，全城百姓都受城主庇护，应当同乐。
Mingzhao backed me up perfectly, turning my cheap meal into a masterclass in political benevolence. But noble consort Wen wasn't done. He decided to play his final card, a direct accusation of theft. Wen stood up and demanded to know where the real treasures were. He practically shouted that I must have pocketed the money for the glassware and the vases. He was so confident, so sure, he had me cornered in front of the throne.
还有夜光琉璃盏和银胎珐琅花瓶，怎么如今不见这些器物？莫不是驸马自己贪墨了？
I revealed my secret weapon, fragrant powder. I had coated the warehouse floors with a substance that turns gold when heated. If his gentle dog had really been in there, the evidence would be written all over its fur. I put my own life on the line for this gamble.
如果身上有淡金色纹路，那便是他擅闯库房的证据。
The city lord sent her guards to check the dog. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a sword. When the gold marks appeared, the look on Wen's face was worth more than all the silver he'd stolen. The city lord's fury was terrifying. She realized Wen had risked the city's dignity just to settle a petty grudge. Wen fell to his knees, begging for mercy, and even offering to kill his own dog to cover his tracks. It was a pathetic display of cowardice.
福瑞只是一只狗，是臣管教不严，让他误入了库房，请城主赐死福瑞，以儆效尤。
Mingzhao and I stepped forward with the real evidence. We presented the audited books that showed years of systematic theft. While the quality of the banquets went down, the costs had magically gone up. We had the receipts, and they were damning.
这是儿臣与驸马查证时誊抄的账册，请母亲过目。
Mingzhao twisted the knife, pointing out how even the pearls and jade in the treasury had been swapped for cheap glass and dyed stones. It wasn't just incompetence, it was a total betrayal of the crown. The city lord had heard enough.
脱去贵妇服制，打入大牢，族人府邸一并查抄。
Desperate, Wen turned to Chancellor Yuan, begging for help, but the chancellor cut him loose without a second thought, claiming he knew nothing. That was the final straw. Watching his allies abandon him, Wen finally snapped and pointed the finger at the real mastermind.
事到如今，你居然让我一个人扛！若不是当时你甜言蜜语的哄骗我怎么会为了帮你挪用城主寿宴的银钱？
I exposed the chancellor's secret ledger, ensuring the real mastermind couldn't walk away.
那这本账册呢？这是袁丞相近3年来的账册，其中每个月都有一笔无名的收入。
I watched the blood drain from Yuan's face as I revealed his late-night visits to Wen's courtyard. He tried to call it an ordinary object, but in this court, paper trails are deadlier than poison. Yuan realized the game was up and tried to throw Wen under the carriage, but it was too late. The city lord's trust wasn't just broken, it was incinerated. She didn't hesitate for a second.
罢了，事已至此，我认了。文贵夫，我对你好是真，可若不是你手中握着城主府采买的权利，我又何必花心思哄你？
The echoes of the arrest hadn't even faded when a new threat marched through the gates. Prince Adrian of Moonlight City arrived, and he wasn't there to offer condolences. He was there to claim a prize. Prince Adrian arrived, eyeing Mingzhao like a territory he was ready to conquer.
阿德王子，男子的价值，从不只在骑射弯刀之间。正如人的气度，也不该靠贬低他人来彰显。
I felt Mingzhao's hand tighten on her throne. Adrian knew I was standing right there. But to him, I was just a ghost in a silk robe. Adrian mocked me as a delicate toy, trying to bully me in my own home.
我听闻云雀城男子皆如美玉，今日一见，果然精致。只是不知除了描眉绣花，还会些什么。
I didn't blink. I told him that a man's value isn't measured by how loud he shouts or how many swords he carries. If he wanted a fight, he was looking at the wrong kind of strength. The tension exploded when Adrian invoked the ancient rule of challenge. He wanted my position as the primary husband. Mingzhao tried to protect me, but I knew I couldn't hide behind her forever.
城主，我听闻云雀城有个规矩，想要取代正夫的位置，可以发起挑战。驸马，可敢应战？
Later, in the quiet of our chambers, Mingzhao's worry was palpable. She didn't want me in the arena, but I explained that bringing Adrian's schemes into the light was the only way to save the city.
轩郎，放心，我对你说过的话字字真心，无论是谁都代替不了你，所以你不用理他。
Her promise felt like a shield. I knew the prince was dangerous, but with Mingzhao by my side, I was ready to play the most dangerous game of my life. Mingzhao loved the fire in me, and on the carriage ride back, she decided to show her appreciation in a way that was, well, very distracting. I was trying to talk strategy, but she had other plans.
没个正形，这是我与阿德里安王子的比赛，你可别。
The first round of the challenge wasn't about combat, it was about physical stats. Adrian thought he'd humiliate me with his warrior physique, but the measurements told a different story, especially when they got to the final tally.
阿德王子腰围2尺5寸，驸马腰围2尺3寸。
6 inches. The crowd went silent, then erupted. Even the city lord couldn't hide her surprise. I might look like a canary to Adrian, but I've got more gifted advantages than he could ever dream of. The rumors of my measurements spread through the city faster than a plague. Mingzhao found the whole thing hilarious and decided that the official measurement in the hall wasn't nearly precise enough for her liking.
不如就由我亲自来为驸马量一量，如何？
The strength test was rigged. The walnuts were coated to be impossible to crush.
这个核桃怎么跟刚才的不一样？外壳表面有一层透明的薄霜，还有一丝极淡的硫磺味。
They had treated the shells to harden with heat, making them impossible to crush with normal strength. Adrian won the round, but I knew exactly who had handed him the victory. I followed the trail and found Su Jinshu and Adrian in a secret huddle. The snake was finally showing his fangs, offering to help the prince win the whole competition in exchange for power and a spy in the manor.
好，最好别耍什么花样，否则月都城的弯刀可不长眼。
Adrian agreed, but he warned Su Jinshu not to play tricks. They think they've already won, but they forgot that I'm much better at spotting a rigged game than they are at playing one. I told Mingzhao everything. The sulfur, the secret deal, the whole rotten plan. We realized Su Jinshu wasn't just trying to humiliate me, he was trying to sell the city out from under us.
不知道，现在看来，他和阿达王子已经达成了合作，最后一场比试不能掉以轻心。 苏锦书果然跟阿德里安串通好了，跟人沾边的事儿他是样样不做。禀城主，臣习惯用自己的纸笔作画，还望城主允准。
The final round is here. Jinshu suggested a painting contest, unaware I've seen through his trap. He wanted us to use the palace's brushes, but I knew better. In this court, a brush isn't just a tool, it's a delivery system for poison or sabotage. If I was going to win this, I had to play by my own rules.
臣习惯用自己的纸笔作画，还望城主允准。
I could feel Su Jinshu's eyes burning into my back, waiting for me to pick up the tainted brushes. Instead, I turned to the city lord. If I was going to be framed for cheating, I might as well be the one to choose my own weapons. The city lord granted my request, much to Su Jinshu's hidden frustration. He thought he had me cornered, but he forgot that a man who handles the city's accounts knows exactly how to spot a rigged ledger or a rigged contest. While Adrian focused on the warrior Mingzhao, I painted the woman I knew. When I revealed the double-sided canvas, the collective gasp from the ministers was the sweetest sound I'd heard all year. I didn't just paint a hero, I painted the soul of the person I loved.
世人皆知少城主英勇，但在我心中，他不只是一个上阵杀敌的英雄，更是一个能为一朵海棠花开而笑的寻常人。
I watched Mingzhao's expression soften, a rare moment of peace in this den of wolves. My heart belongs wherever she is, and in that moment, the entire court knew it. With the victory secured, it was time to address the elephant in the room. Prince Adrian wasn't here for love, he was here for survival. I decided to offer him a hand instead of a sword, exposing his true motives before the entire court.
你是想借少城主之事镇压内乱，又怕再起争端。但是呢，我十分佩服阿德王子对于百姓的这份心意。如果你信得过我的话，我可以助你一臂之力，促成云雀城与月都城的结盟。
The alliance was the final straw for Adrian's conscience. He turned his gaze towards Su Jinshu, the man who had tried to buy his victory with treason. The prince produced a secret letter, and I watched the color drain from Su Jinshu's face as his grand plan crumbled into ash.
这封是锦贵夫给我的密信，他在信中说会把文饰改为作画，还买通官员盛赞我的画作，让我赢得比赛。更重要的是，他承诺会暗中动手脚，给驸马准备无法作画的工具，让驸马必败无疑。
The city lord's roar echoed through the hall. Su Jinshu had crossed the line from petty jealousy to outright collusion with a foreign power. He tried to scramble for an excuse, but the evidence was written in his own hand. Su Jinshu was still fighting, claiming the handwriting was a forgery. It was time to pull out the one piece of evidence he couldn't explain away. I produced the Iron Frost, the very substance used to rig the martial arts trial.
城主，在武士比试的时候，我的核桃被人做了手脚，上面染上这个制铁霜，寻常人根本就无法捏碎。臣特意派人去查了一下，这东西十分难买，只有锦贵夫的侍卫买过它。他现在就在门外，城主可以随时传召。
I had his guard waiting outside. The trap was shut, and Su Jinshu was finally caught in the jaws of his own ambition. The city lord's spoilage had reached its limit, and her disappointment was absolute. Cornered and desperate, Su Jinshu finally snapped. The mask of the elegant consort shattered, revealing a man who felt like nothing more than a discarded toy. He began to scream at the city lord, his voice full of a lifetime of resentment.
小明昭，我对你忠心一片，你为什么就是看不上我？你不要我，我就嫁给你娘，这一切都是你逼我的。
Mingzhao silenced the room, declaring her heart belongs only to me.
少城主府的男主人只会是陆云轩，因为我萧明昭此生此世，眼里心里都只有他。
Su Jinshu's reaction was pure venom. He called me a seducer, a man worth less than a dog, without his wife's protection. He couldn't comprehend a relationship built on anything other than power and dependence. The city lord passed judgment, and Su Jinshu was dragged away, his ambition ruined.
锦贵夫通敌叛国，罪无可赦，打入大牢，等候问斩。
A man who only lives for the favor of others will always find himself in the dark when the lights go out. But the peace was short-lived. A messenger burst in, her face pale with terror. War had arrived at our doorstep. Mingzhao didn't hesitate. She was a warrior first, and her city needed her. I stood by her side as she prepared to lead the troops, my heart heavy with worry, but my pride in her even heavier. I told her to go, to be the shield this city needed.
刀剑无眼，我不能在身边护你周全，万事小心。
I watched her ride out, the woman who held my heart leading an army into the unknown. I promised to wait, to keep the home fires burning, and to ensure that the city she was fighting for was still standing when she returned. Victory came, and with it, a new era. Mingzhao took her place as the city lord, and together we stood before the people to announce a change that would shake the foundations of our world. No more masters and servants based on gender-only merit.
男女本是同根生，并无高低贵贱之分。今日城主推行平权，不是要颠覆旧制，而是为了能够让每一个人都有凭本事立足的公平。
The cheers were deafening. We were building a future where our children wouldn't be defined by the old laws. But as the sun set on the celebration, I realized that changing the laws was the easy part. Living them would be the real challenge. Years passed, and our equal household became a battlefield of a different kind: toddlers and trade accounts. Mingzhao, the fearless commander, was suddenly defeated by a sink full of dishes and a son who refused to sit still. I caught her trying to sneak away from her parental duties.
那我呢？我就睡了2个时辰。现在倒好，孩子的事情你不管，府里的事情你不管，连尚书府的烂摊子你也不管，全都我一个人处理。站住！